We'll do it live.
Hello and welcome to Under the Sticks, presented by Big Red Cloud. My name is Andy McGeady. Visit www.bigredcloud.com for all your online accounting needs. Joining me tonight, live via the interwebs, I have Mr. Sean Holley. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, and yeah, fully rugbyed up after a full weekend of fixtures, back on telly commentating, back analysing, and looking forward to another weekend.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's weird. It's the weird sense of normality in a not normal world. Dean Budd, how are you?
Yeah, very good. Had a day kind of catching up. I had a busy weekend, so I had to watch a few replays today just before the show and spend an afternoon in the gym kind of rowing my way half the way to New Zealand after a few beers on the weekend, just trying to sweat it out still.
It's good. I like that approach. Williams, Mr. Paul Williams from the Racket Stringing Room, how are you?
I'm good, Mr. McGeady. How are you?
I am very well. My backdrop is not yet as professional as it should be, but we're working on that. Before
we start, what flavour, horrible teeth rotting garbage you drinking tonight, Williams?
This evening, I won't name the brand, but it is apple and raspberry sparkling water.
It's a step up.
It's a step up, but yeah, and it's the evening. I think I'm allowed to drink that in the evening. It's fine. It's as you suggested a month ago. It's when I'm drinking Fanta at 7:30 in the morning. That's the behavioural problem, isn't it?
That was noted a lot on our Super Rugby Aotearoa watch alongs. That your capacity for fully leaded soft drinks at that early in the morning is unparalleled.
You know, a lesser known fact about me is that I've got an open gullet, so it being fizzy isn't the problem. So I can still do a pint of Guinness, in fact, because it's the best for doing it, in under 3 seconds.
Cheapers.
Yeah.
That's not right.
I look forward to the podcast when we get together then.
We've got to see that next week.
I tried beating Ellis Genge online via videos we took. Ellis Genge is a freak. He can do it in about 1.8. It's unbelievable.
A pint,
yeah. I'll get a pint of Guinness one week, and I'll do it live.
We all want to see that.
Yeah, this is where I'm going to reach for my read about drink alcohol responsibly, folks.
Yeah, you only do one. There's only one. You have one, and then that's it. You finish then for the night. Back to bed.
Exactly, little bit. So we've got some people coming in online, some regulars. Ian Gilbert, hello from Madrid. A few other people popping in early. Just be aware that we are. Okay, I'll pause this.
What he's been doing, he's been going around on social media, sort of courting these people because I'm social media bullying him on this podcast.
I've been DMing people privately saying, you know, Holley's really nasty to me, genuinely. And he keeps sending me like parcel bombs and things. So can you support me online? It's working.
Yeah, it is working pretty well. So for all those people, all of the Williams acolytes, Bear Hug are still giving away gear for the best question or comment for the evening. They are, aren't they?
They are. It's worth winning too.
They are. Okay, so Bear Hug, if you don't know who they are the unmistakable orange muscle sleeves and joint supports, uniquely using bamboo in the makeup of their supports. This difference in composition can increase blood flow and dramatically reduce rehabilitation and recovery periods while enhancing performance. Visit getabearhug.com. Williams, this is your weekly reminder
to write a shorter read. I know.
Shorter read, please.
And you know, that stuff is worn by Josh Navidi, and that's
who will captain the Blues this week against the Ospreys.
Yeah, that is a big stamp of approval.
Yeah, it is. So we've got a few things to get through today. It's a bit of news about South Africa and the situation, how it's going to impact the Pro14. So we'll get an official line on that, and then we might have some ill-informed chat, which is what we do best. Yeah. We had actual rugby from last weekend, which was bloody great.
It was amazing.
Absolutely great to have it back. I know we've had Super Rugby from everywhere else, but this was great. So we're going to look through and just drag up some key points from that weekend's games. Adam's been busy getting us some clips to run as well, so we'll pull some of those up. Mr. Zani, close compatriot and friend of Mr. Dean Budd, he had a nice little moment at the end of that game, which we were doing some live goggle boxing on at the weekend, so we will talk to Dean about that. We'll look ahead to the next weekend and what that holds for us. And depending on the quality of comment, we can take it whichever way you guys want. So be involved. We'll be keeping an eye. Adam will be keeping us honest by putting the best ones up during the show. And I think there we are. So I think let's get into some of the big talking points from the weekend. Will we hit the big injury news? Orgy Sneeman, bit unfortunate. We'll talk about the game later, but that was an unfortunate one to see a big signing we were all looking forward to. Dean, we've talked about the impact that he was to have on the pitch. We've asked you about, facing a man that big, and a man that big lasted for 7 minutes with a freak accident.
Bigger they are, the harder they fall. No, I actually tuned into that game 10 minutes late, expecting to see him and pretty excited about it, and he was already off the field. Yeah. So I didn't see it happen, and completely missed it, and absolutely devastated. For Munster, who are making such a massive drive at the end of the season, and for him, God, such a big move, and to go down straight away like that, just so anticlimactic.
Yeah.
It's a shame, really, because he was one of the ones we were really looking forward to, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But they did really well, Munster, to be fair. It must have been a massive hammer blow. But he's gone. He's gone. He's Thunderbolts, isn't it? That's what we used to call him as coaches. Thunderbolts. Just got to move on. It happens. It'll happen again to somebody else. And unfortunately, it's happened to him. But,
It's big ramifications, though, because beyond the Munster as well, it could impact the Lions as well, because you want the best players facing the Lions.
No, you don't.
I do. ACL could easily be 12 months, couldn't it? If that doesn't go quite to plan, he could be out for a year. So, it's gutting.
Yeah, and just to keep going on the injury front, Harley Worthy's just come in with Thomas Williams. He's got an injury as well. A couple of months. Yeah. He's staring down the barrel of that, Paul. That's another little bit of bad news from this weekend.
Well, that is a big one because, Thomas Williams, from a Welsh perspective, was vying for the top spot. I mean, Gareth Davis is probably still the number one in Wales, but Thomas Williams pushing him hard. I think what will be interesting now is that'll open up a third spot, maybe for a former Osprey scrum half that Sean will know pretty well, in Rhys Webb. So it'll be interesting who comes in underneath that that gap created by Thomas Williams being injured.
Well, he's not former anymore. He's back, isn't he? So he played well. He played well on the weekend. It's funny how these things happen, isn't it? Thomas was going to be number one, and then Rhys is back now, and that happens. Gareth Davis is injured as well.
Yes,
but these things happen. He made a lovely searing break for the Blues, and then landed. It's like Dean landed on his elbow, jarred his shoulder, and he's got to have an operation.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most common shoulder popping that happens. Everyone thinks it's in tackles, but it's just that niggly one where it just, boom, AC gone or whatever it is. Horrible.
Yes, not great. We're really starting on this downer. We want to get the bad news out of the way first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's get it out.
So this is where we've two more things to hit here, because late before we got on air, there has been a statement from Ulster Rugby say that they have had a positive COVID case within the academy squad, and similar, I suppose, to the Munster case recently. They've had standard all training where they make sure that everything's okay. So if we'll be asking Adam about the South African situation soon, and if Adam wants to add anything on that, Adam is free to do so. That's a gentle hint to super producer Adam Redmond, because I have nothing to add, because all we can do is say exactly what you're saying at any of these points, that we have the protocols in place. By we, I mean rugby in general. It's just like any other business, any other sports team. And when there is a case, people are assessing, going like, everyone stop, make sure we know what's going on, and we take it day by day. So I'm seeing comments coming in about, do we know anything about the game of the weekend? No, we don't. And at the moment, there is absolutely a game, but we just see where these things go day by day as we know what the facts are. So this is where we do call Mr. Super Producer Adam Redmond in, because there was a statement that came out this week to do with the Southern Kings in South Africa, and also wider implications for the Pro 14 or the Pro. What number will that be for the rest of 2020? Adam, what's the Pro 14 line on this?
I think I'll put up the little bit at the bottom that says Redmond : we're not in disarray, as according to a certain favourite outlet of all of ours. So the South African government have basically decreed that due to the pandemic, no sports teams can travel internationally in and out, which obviously had immediate impact on Super Rugby, but of course any idea that there might be some Super Rugby activity going on any later. And this now extends to the Cheetahs and the Kings. So I know once the announcement came out yesterday morning that the Kings were they were downing tools effectively for the rest of 2020, because they are not at a level where they compete in the top tier of the Currie Cup, which the Cheetahs and the other top franchises do. So they've just made a decision in terms of costs, etc., that they will just they won't be training or participating in anything for the rest of 2020 until they have games to prepare for, hopefully in January and February in the Guinness PRO14. So that's their situation. So they haven't folded, they haven't pulled out. They are just they are taking the opportunity, while they are not going to be playing any games, to take a back seat. So I don't think that is the case for the Cheetahs, but the Cheetahs as well will be on course hopefully in the new year when the South Africans are allowed to travel again. So there is at the moment plans in place for a 12-team start to the season with all the European teams, and then there are a couple of options in place for January for if the South Africans are allowed to travel, if they are not allowed to travel, etc. So kind of just have to wait and see how some of it plays out. But it won't affect anything in terms of the season starting on October 3rd. And hopefully we'll have fixtures out in the next week or two on that. So there's more information than you thought you'd get.
That was a little more.
That was an ultra update. I like that, producer Adam.
That was good. Can I do my snarky thing, which is to say, whenever I see one of these statements about the Kings, I just love that the central stakeholder is the greatest rugby company in the whole wide world. Are they gone?
They were.
I really will miss that.
They were bought out by the South African Rugby Union, so we no longer have to concern ourselves with the greatest rugby company in the world.
It's such a great
in the whole wide world.
The thing is, that is just exactly the sort of thing I would do if it hadn't been done. It's fantastic. I love it.
It's awesome. I really do. Yeah. Thank you.
Regarding the Ulster breaking news stuff, so I do believe as well, so the testing results for the senior squad, as they are, I believe, every Thursday released by the IRFU. So I believe the statement indicated that everyone had been tested again today, and they'll come out with that. Look, I think the main thing to remember is, look, guys, over the next 6 months, we are just going to get teams every week. There's going to be scares, there's going to be academy players, there are going to be people, and then immediately all the protocols are in place. You know, all the protocols are in place to make sure that anyone who's a potential contact is isolated, and being a potential contact is far from being somebody who's positive and spreading stuff. So look, we'll see what happens, but as you kind of said earlier on, we have a game on the weekend, and that's what everyone's planning for. So,
do you know what? I think as soon as people get the idea out of their head that this is going to be perfect in the next 12 months, the better, because it isn't. These, like you said, these things are going to happen. Just got to ride them and get on with whatever we can get on with.
Well, look what happened to the Dragons last week. You know, when Dragons player, and we got a game on. All the protocols were put in place superbly. I was down at the Liberty, and we cracked on with the game. You know, same will happen with Ulster. If it's worse tomorrow because of the results, then there'll be other protocols in place. Move on, innit?
Correct.
Right. So let's talk actual rugby, right?
Come on,
Sean, you finished the weekend actually being at a real game in a real stadium. How did it feel?
It felt great. It was nerve-wracking because the first thing you have to do when you go in with your mask on is get your temperature checked. I've
Really?
never been so nervous in my life, thinking I've waited this long now to be back on TV, and a guy points a gun at your head, and you're praying that it's below 37 degrees. I was 36.6, so I got in. But everybody's wearing masks, and it's difficult to recognize people and so on. And then when I was commentating, I realized because I had to go back down to pitch side half time. You have cans on you, like we have when you commentate, and I get quite excitable when I'm commentating. I like to put a bit of passion into it. I like to get involved. When I was walking down the steps, to go to my position halftime, I had a few funny looks, and then I realized everyone who was in there probably could hear me really loudly commentating.
Of course, yeah.
But I can't
Screaming
hear
away.
yourself. You got a lip mic and cans on, so you can't really hear yourself. But I must have
my
been like, I
God,
know.
yeah.
I was driving home, thinking I was so
You
self-conscious driving
slag
home.
anyone off.
And when I go, my worst critics are my two sons. And when I got in, they both said, "You were great, Dad." And I thought, "Oh, thank God for that." So, but I really enjoyed it. It was spoiled a little bit by I was. Oh, producer Adam. It was great to be back. The game changed because of the George North red card, obviously, but it was still a good first half. It petered out a little bit in the second, but then, it was a good finish. So, considering there was nothing on it in terms of the league, then it was great. I just enjoyed all the games, boys, watching them. It was just
Yeah, me
great to
too.
see, to be honest.
Do you know, I was really impressed with Ashton Hewitt for the Dragons.
Oh,
He
yeah.
took his tries really well. And you think, I wrote a little bit about him today. He's had a really high profile summer off the field, and he's been really vocal. He's almost become like a voice of the youth, really, in Wales and wider, and he's been, very positively outspoken in terms of the Black Lives Matter and the sort of BAME issues. And then there it is. Sorry. And then to perform like that, with all that sort of media attention around, he's been doing a lot of TV and a lot of stuff outside of rugby. I thought it was fantastic. And especially after having been spun 360 by George North, that's pretty frightening when you go up and over like that. I thought he played really well.
Okay, so let's bring in you go Dean, then I want to bring a clip in.
No, just that try that he scored, it was phenomenal. It looked like he was half held and then just completely accelerated around the fullback to go under. I didn't realise he was that quick. It was pretty scary.
And that was Ollie Cracknell that he brushed off first. And Ollie Cracknell's a big lump. What's Ollie Cracknell, Sean? 6'3", like 16'5", 17?
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. If you go too high and you got some of the power that Ashton's got in the middle of the chest, boosh, and it sprung him away. He just went too high on him. I think Kieran Williams missed him first, but he's got that electric power, and he finished his second one to draw level really well. He's been on the fringe of the Welsh squad before, and injuries have cost him. But let's go back to the George North, because it did change the game, and he got over some nice play in the first half from the Ospreys, showed a little bit more on attack. It's a sort of routine score for George, but then I think we all recognise that there's no malice in George North. There's no malice at all. And you can see hands up, and he's just got it all wrong, George. He might be rusty with that, but he should know, a man of his experience. He should have got up in the air. He was watching the ball, and then last minute he comes down, looks at Ashton, and he's gone too far, and he couldn't pull out. It was really lucky the way Ashton landed, but it was just really clumsy, and he's got 8 weeks down to 4, which is probably about right. And do you know the nice thing, which a lot of people won't have seen because it wasn't on the TV footage? Before he got sent off, Ashton Hewitt went over to George North, shook his hand as if to say,
really?
"Don't worry, mate, it happens." And I thought it was a real nice touch.
Yeah, I know it's so dangerous and that's the rules, but I just hate those kind of red cards. I remember Jared Payne a long time ago in the Champions Cup semi-final, exactly the same, eyes on the ball. I mean, if that guy misses the ball, he's catching that perfectly and he's scoring a try. So I know it's clumsy and bad, but I just hate that. I mean, Ospreys almost held on to win it. Unluckily to draw at the end, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it would have been cool to. It's better watching 15 on 15 rugby, that's for sure.
Is
Yeah,
that an orange card situation? We talked about this
Well, this is the thing, isn't
before
it?
you came on, buddy. That is there a case in the league for an orange card?
Is that like a review system?
Yeah,
Well, like
sort of like a
20
middle of the
minutes,
road.
20 minutes in the bin, which is enough, isn't it? That 20 minutes in the bin for that, I think, would have been cool.
Yeah.
You're off for a sizable chunk of the game. You'll probably concede, 7 to 10 points maybe in 20 minutes, but then at least you come back on to sort of make it a competition, in the second half.
My counter to that, Dean, was I'd have like somebody like you. I'd be prepared to lose you for 15, 20 minutes, and I'd send you out in the first 5 minutes to size down their best player and put him out of the game.
Yeah,
it's like a brawler in hockey. You just go out
exactly like that. Yeah.
I think it was more than that. Didn't you say you'd load the bench essentially with assassins?
Yeah.
And just send them all on and take about 6 out and then off to
Kill
go.
the king. Kill the king.
Kill the king. Yeah.
I like
we might come back to the coach player dynamic very shortly. And this could be more interesting than I thought it was going to be, just based on that.
Hi Simon. Thank you. Yeah,
it is an awesome chair.
14 shirts of teams I've played and coached. Unique sports chairs. Follow them. Get one.
There you go. So let's get back to the very start of the weekend, because the first match, which we all had back in the Guinness PRO14, was all Italy. And we all sat down and we opened a beer and we watched it together with a watch along. It was kind of weird having rugby back, but it was great having rugby back. Dean, weirder for you than us.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that game was terrible, wasn't it? I mean, at least the weekend got better. That's all I'll say. I mean, I don't know how much we really can talk about that game for. I mean, Alizani, absolutely last game at home at Monigo, absolute legend of Benetton and Italy rugby. Got as best a send off as he could get, so absolutely stoked for him. Oh, not quite as good. I wish they had a one for him, but but it was like I said a month ago. These games, it's a pre-season essentially, an Italian derby. They just get ugly really quickly. So I'm pleased I watched it with you guys and had a chat and had a laugh to take my mind off the game a little bit, to be really honest.
Do you know what though? I think it was a big win for Zebra. I think you imagine being the little brother in that league to Treviso all these years, and Treviso tend to get the big overseas players and a bit more cash and whatever it might be. And then, I think to give your big brother a little slap across the chops on the opening weekend, I think they were happy. Yeah, exactly. But sorry.
No, you go.
No, I was just, somebody's actually said in here about how good the Zebras drive-in maul was. I thought their maul was really effective, actually. And, as ugly a game as it was, if it is ugly, that's the way to win it. I was quite impressed by Zebras maul.
Yeah, it was good, but I was impressed by Dean's early call, saying, look, I'm looking at these teams. Yeah. Zebra are winning this game.
Yeah, called it from the first second.
It was a good, honest call, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah.
I'll keep them going.
Yeah.
Keep them coming.
So we're not going to drain that game because it was not a classic, but you know what? It was just great to have rugby back on a Friday night, and I will die on that hill. Okay. But we went into the Saturday. We had Scarlets and Blues. There was a shocking haircut in that game, and we'll talk about shocking haircuts very soon, right? Glasgow and Edinburgh. Edinburgh sewed a few things up, Sean, with that win.
Yeah, they were pretty impressive.
Yeah, they were.
I looked at Glasgow's team sheet. I thought, they're going to give this a bit of a dig, but they're just showing now, final sort of form. Even after the break, they were pretty awesome before. They've got an all-court game because they're a big physical bunch. If you go pitch side, like commented, you think, blimey, they're a good size there. Good set piece, which you'd expect in the Cockers. Good halfbacks, neat, tidy kicking game, so on. And then, Boomper, you've got your man on the wing, Duan van der Merwe, who's just holding the ball one hand, beating people for fun. So they've got a pretty, decent all-court game. Their defensive statistics are fantastic. They're the best tacklers, highest percentage, don't miss many, lots of turnovers. So they're on an upward curve. I tipped them before the lockdown, if we remember.
Yeah, you
And
did.
I think I'm going to stick by him.
Right. So here's the thing which has now happened, that we have been now suckered into a new podcast universe where the Guinness PRO14 have now brought out other podcasts, which is somewhat controversial. On the late hit this week, which you will find on all good podcast providers, James Hook says he reckons that Duan van der Merwe is the kind of winger that Warren Gatland would love to pick for the Lions. Big dude, runs fast. That is kind of a Warren Gatland winger.
Oh, he is the Gatland blueprint, isn't he? I mean, he plays almost identically to George North when he was in his pomp.
Nick Haining. Now.
Oh, hang on.
Nearly thought running in for a try there.
Here,
Yeah,
Beckett, play it. Come on, Adam. Just run with it. We'll just enjoy watching him for a few minutes, and then we'll come back and chat. If you
was he doing it like a 70s horror film, and it's subliminal? So he's just going to flash up Van der Merwe scoring tries every 6 seconds.
To be fair to producer Adam, he's a lot on his plate. But go back to the Gatland. Gats does like to throw a little curveball in, to be fair to him. But is this a curveball if he's qualified?
Not really.
He's not, is it? This guy, he's carving up the league, and he scores tries. He's big, defends well. You could argue maybe a bit positionally. Talking at the highest level now, we've probably got to see him in a Scotland shirt. We've got to see that. When he picked Sean Maitland on the last tour, Maitland was established Scottish player, albeit not Scottish, but. That's what you need. You can't just, gone are the days where you pick Derek Quinnell or whoever it is who hasn't, John Bevan, who hasn't played an international game. I think now you have to be tested. Gats has to see him at that level. But he's a candidate for me. Blimey.
The real wild card would be him and James Lowe on the other wing starting a test. Now that would put the cat amongst.
Do we need to see him play for Ireland? No, I think he's probably.
Do you know what I mean? That's not out of the question. Those two playing on the wing for the British and Irish Lions.
Yeah.
It's the state of rugby, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's
for the Lions.
It's a global game. This is part of it.
Well, here he is. I mean, for a big man, he shifts and
look at that.
His change of direction and pace. Look at the size of him. It does beg the question. Why only now in his in South Africa? I think he's at Montpellier. What is it that's injected this into him? Because he's playing. He did a little step on the hoof, ball in one hand to beat Adam Hastings, and you look at the legs on him, Dean. How do you stop that on the hoof?
Oh, Jesus.
He looks like a number 8, doesn't he? When he's moving, he's the same size as an 8, isn't he?
He had Bill Matter next to him and made him look like a little boy. So he's freakish. He really is. And I mean, just watching this, it'd be hard to think that he wouldn't be in the Lions if he's available. God.
Yeah. It's his try from the weekend was unbelievable.
I bet he bench presses a few kegs.
Oh, that's a good shout, Paul. You saying about he looks like a number 8 when he moves. There's some times where he's in open field just with head forward and looking straight down the field. He's got the kind of Pierre Spies look.
Yes, that's exactly what he looks like. Pierre Spies. Head forward.
Yeah. But he can do that body swerve. He has moves. He's a scary proposition, but I would like to see him. I think we need to see him in a couple of very, very big games against big opposition. So if we had a final series in the Guinness PRO14 where he just goes out and rocks it for 2 games,
you put him up against Anthony Watson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at Twickers. Let's have a look.
Then you'll see. Oh, yeah, it's the defending it is, isn't it?
Ford and
'Cause, you know-
Farrell kicking behind you. Johnny May coming at you.
Yeah. Do you know, as big a fan as I am of Johnny McNichol, who's a fantastic player and shredded the league, and then just a little bit at test level, his positioning was found wanting just slightly. And it really stands out, doesn't it, at test level? Because even if you're like 2 yards out of position, you get skinned. So it's, yeah, like Sean says, it's the defending at test level, isn't it? You missed 3 tackles on Watson, and you've just shipped 2 tries.
Well, let me bring Dean in on that one. So, you've been, a player who's had that step up to test level, and the analysis of the opposition. You'd assume that if anyone out there can be a step slow turning or a step slow with a high ball going in behind them or anything like that, that's something you're going to target.
Yeah, I mean, take it back a little bit, and that was what every team tried against Jonah Lomu back in the day, I guess. That was always the thing, right? He was never a good enough defender and too slow on the turn. But I mean, what he made up for in attack, and who cares, right? To a certain extent, and if you've got Van der Merwe scoring tries from 80 meters and giving you a 30-meter gain line like that, busting through guys, bumping them off, maybe that's worth it. Let that little sacrifice indeed to kind of get some serious go forward ball. These are all things you got to weigh up, I guess.
Question in from Simon Thomas. Where is Josh Adams in the Lions wing pecking order?
He's right up there.
At the
He's
top,
right
yeah.
up. Another Gatland type player.
Yeah.
I would imagine he's in. If he picked it now, he's in. Top try scorer in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Hello. So he's right there. He's ahead of George.
Oh, absolutely.
He's ahead of George. So
by some distance, I'd have said now as well, Sean.
Who would you pick in front of him? Say from Ireland.
I would pick.
Would you pick Stockdale ahead of him?
Not at the moment.
I think. Yeah, so I'm biased, so I would have Stockdale ahead because I think Stockdale is just as an all-round.
What have you been
Stockdale's
drinking?
a phenomenal player.
What have you been drinking?
I can answer that. I can answer that question if you want to.
Were you watching the World Cup, man? I mean, were you watching
that was a long time. That was a year ago.
You're watching the last Six Nations. You go back and watch this kid. No chance. He's in.
Sorry. Do you know what? It's nice seeing Sean Holley turn the guns on someone else. They're normally on me. That green dot's normally permanently on my forehead.
Watson's in for me. Watson's in for me.
Yeah.
I mean, if Johnny May continues any sort of form, he's in because he's got sheer gas. You're talking, Duan Van der Merwe, Josh Adams. And we haven't mentioned an Irish guy yet. So, are you going Earls? Are you going Jordan Lamb? Are you going Stockdale? We haven't mentioned any other Scots. So, any other Welsh? Stockdale, Lowe, Adams, Van der Merwe, Watson, mate. Jesus.
Can't pick him. He hasn't got residency.
Lowe. We haven't mentioned Lowe. Gosh. What a selection, though, eh? That's why everybody gets so excited about the Lions. Me and my mates done that. We have a pint on a Thursday night, and we've done this every Lions tour since Dot, that we write our squads down and we put it in a jar, say a month before it's announced or after the Six Nations or whenever it is.
There's a bet involved here, Holley, isn't there?
Oh, there's a bet involved. Oh, there's a wager here. There's a wager here. And whoever gets the closest. Never mind that I've been involved in professional rugby for that. I still do it with my mates, and they still want to give me the money. So that's great.
Yeah. Handed it over.
Cocky fecker. Right. We're going to just move on slightly from that one, right? Watson and Adams for me, says Simon Thomas. We need to talk about Mr. Cockrell's extension. Okay, so
great bit
nice
of business,
little vote of confidence there. Sean, it's good to have him continue in the league.
Oh, Cockers?
Yeah.
Oh, he's been great for the league. I mean, him and Stu Lancaster. It's nice to have. We've got Toby Booth now. We've got English guys. I do like homegrown coaches. Like I like homegrown talent, but there's room. And let's face it, Edinburgh were just floating along, weren't they? They were sort of big time. Well, not big time Charlies. There was a culture there, perhaps, that wasn't. It was a big city. That's what I meant to say. Big city sort of culture where So now we'll do okay. And not since Todd Blackadder back in the day was there, the king of Edinburgh, and getting them up with the likes of Hugo Southwell and that era. So, he's turned that culture around into this sort of hard to beat, physical, all court game that I mentioned. And why shouldn't he have a new contract? I bet there were other clubs coming in for him.
That's what I was going to say. That's the real power of that signing. He'd have had offers from a lot of places and from a lot of leagues. Top 14 would have looked at him. They'd have definitely wanted to bring him back into the Gallagher. There was talk of would he go for the Gloucester job earlier on. But yeah, I think to secure him on a 2-year extension, that's fantastic for Edinburgh.
So going back to before I bring you in, Dean, there was a bit of other talk about the coach-player dynamic that I do think we need to bring in here from Adam as we fade out.
How do boys react to Cockrell's mind games, John? Like some boys like it, or because Gatland loved the mind games, and I know, a lot of boys didn't really like.
Yeah, I didn't react to it. But I think some boys, it definitely must get them going because there's been a big transformation at the club, and I think there has to be a bit of credit there because I wasn't there at the time, but it was a bit of a show in terms of standards, and there wasn't much. A lot of kind of boys enjoying being young professionals, enjoying being professionals for the wrong reasons. Yeah. And that's what we're talking, a little bit earlier around about having a squad where you can go out and enjoy each other's company and make it almost feel a bit amateur. But this was probably then not delivering any kind of rugby good. So I think he's done a lot of good stuff there. But I think they're getting to the point now where he's made so many changes around the environment and how they do it. And I think now the players have to start to take it over a little bit and say, look, we're the ones playing. We need to have a bit more ownership. And that's how they're going to evolve the game a little bit. But I think, you get to a certain point, don't you? Like a Hamish Watson or, these guys know how they're playing the game. They don't need to be. I never reacted to being screamed to. Some people maybe like that, but I was never one that enjoyed, someone playing mind games. Just tell me, straight down the line, what do you want? Have I done it? Yes or no? And if not, let's figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. He's never been shy of giving his opinion on Cockers.
Right. I suppose that begs the question, doesn't it, Dean?
Yeah.
Has there been? I think reading between the lines there, what John Barkley's saying is that he didn't 100% agree with. He's probably been on the end of a bit of a wrath from Cockers. Any conflict with any coaches personally, Dean, or players close to you?
I certainly with Franco Smith in my early years at Benetton, I really, in terms of mind games and just saying things that were just completely unnecessary. I remember one day we'd got to Edinburgh. Speaking of Edinburgh, after a long trip, and we kind of got called in for like a 9:30 meeting, and it was. We were just getting basically abused for how we'd traveled that day. It wasn't good enough how we'd kind of walked from getting our bags to the bus, and we're Brown's cows, and we should be this, and it just went on this massive rant essentially about how hopes we sleep badly, and we need to wake up, and we need our standards aren't good enough, and blah blah, and just. Everyone was just like jaw dropped to the ground, like, where the hell has this come from? Like, it just makes no sense. And he would sometimes go on his little rants like that, and it made it really difficult as a player. I think it really turned a lot of players away more than brought us closer together. Franco's massively improved now, having gone to the Cheetahs. I think dealing with the South African boys probably just didn't accept that as much, knowing the South African boys, if it's black and white, and if they don't think it's right, they're going to tell you, even if you're a coach. So I think he learned a little bit of that back in South Africa, and he's a lot better with the mind games now. But I hate mind games. I just think they're so pointless. But I can see how effective they are on the younger players. You get them double question. We're getting guys 20, 30 minutes early to meetings at some stage because we had to be there 5 minutes early. So they're just like, it's a whole cycle of fear, which I don't massively agree with. And yeah, at a point, it kind of hinders growth of a player. you don't have that freedom to operate how you think you should, and you can't grow as a group because everything, firstly from fear of being wrong in the coach's eye, and secondly, you just don't have that confidence to kind of challenge and create new things. So don't like it in long. Don't like it one bit.
Yeah, sometimes mind games and being straight can perhaps be misconstrued. So that's typical players, those two talking like that, isn't it? They're talking in riddles themselves, flirting around the subject.
Can you give us an example as a supporter? Because I don't really know what you mean by the mind game. So
well, look, I'll give an example. There was a previous Scarlets coach that big derby match, Osprey Scarlets, and he wanted the team to train on Christmas morning.
Right.
Because psychologically felt that was you learn, right? What benefit you're going to get? You're going to get more from your players by not training on Christmas morning, and you're going to get more. You're going to get more out of them in whatever team run you have on Christmas Eve morning if they know that's the fact. Sometimes you make mistakes as a coach. You think you're doing the right thing, or you get ill-advised. I was really lucky. I came through the system where I was an academy coach. I run Harbury College. I learned to manage big squads of young men, and then became an assistant coach. Graduated a head coach with sevens and Wales 21s, Wales students. So, was able to nurture before I became a senior head coach. So I'd made all my mistakes. You know what I mean? And then you get to an utopian period where you're on the same page with the players. You've got a good leadership group. You talk to them. You empathize with them. You get the best out of them. You bounce things off. You be straight with them because you understand the players who want to be told straight. They don't like it, but they are told straight. They're not told lies. So mind games might be around selection. One coach might say, "Oh, you're not picked because Warren Gatland said so-and-so needs a run." Well, that's not strictly true because you can pick the bloody side you want. Right. So, so there's all sort of things like that. The trouble is, after a long, long period, if you get a group of players that maybe start taking the mick or, liberties or aren't honest themselves, you become a bit more of a reticent coach and a bit narky, and maybe, you make mistakes that we almost go over the other way, so right. That sort of happened to me a little bit. I was in it too long on the field for so many years and sounded my own voice, and, needed to pull back. But yeah, and I would imagine Cockers might be a little bit of that. But I go back to what I said about him changing he would have needed to be like that at the start. It wouldn't necessarily be mind games. It'd be, harsh, and they would have been used to that, So how he manages the next 2 years will be interesting.
I'm just on that point about the Christmas Day training. I've heard it from men like throughout France. I think it happens pretty regularly, and I even heard it by someone in the PRO14 that essentially you've got your game on Saturday, then the week off that everyone gets the week after, and coaches, a lot of coaches say you win, you guys get that week off, you lose Monday morning, you're in for training for that week off, and that's just like, that is the worst motivator you could ever give a bunch of guys to try.
What if your winger tips up his opposite number in the first 5 minutes and you're down to 14 million? It's not my fault.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
But it's just so. Like you say, the benefits of guys drooling for an 8-month season to not give them a month off because they lost that one game. It's not like no one's going out there to lose, and things like that. Just they really break you as a player.
Yeah. So here's the learning that I'm taking to this conversation. So we're pretending that Richard Cockrell is actually secretly a sweet bunny rabbit who doesn't like shouting at people, and it's all mind games.
Just a mind game, yeah.
Yeah.
The hooded claw is at it again.
The hooded claw.
Right, we'll move on from Glasgow, Edinburgh. There were some talking points about Scarlets Blues. The main one is they did what they needed to do to keep this weekend alive for them. We'll come back to that. I want to talk about Steph Evans, and I do not care that he scored 2 tries.
This is Paul's domain.
Yeah.
Paul's domain. Right.
We need to talk about Steph Evans. Paul described the photo, which is now on screen.
That is even, I don't know if Fentine, even by Kiwi standards, that is a ridiculous. That's a ridiculous mullet. There are rural players in New Zealand who don't look like that.
What's a rural player?
Rural.
Well, in some of the rural areas in New Zealand, that's like a base haircut, isn't it, Dean? You see a lot of lads playing in the IPC with haircuts like
You're
that.
on dangerous ground, you mate. You're already banned from Russia. You're going to be banned from New Zealand now.
I'll have half the globe that I won't be. I'll be living like Salman Rushdie now in another month. Yeah, it's a bad haircut. And it needs to go. I can't look at that in all seriousness for another month. Long term, that's got to go.
Have you looked in the mirror recently?
Listen here, Holly. Are you having a go at this foppish fringe? No, it's a bit. On a serious note, I thought the Scarlets played some very attractive rugby. That full-length try that Johnny McNichol scored was beautiful. It was. I thought they played very well. Cardiff Blues weren't great, admittedly, but I thought the Scarlets did pretty well for the first game back.
Dean, I'm not going to ask you to defend your countrymen because there's another game to come. Benetton Rugby on Facebook. Ciao, Dean.
Ciao, Freddy.
Gone but not forgotten. Connacht, Ulster. I'm just going to go straight into that. I'm going to change days because there's a clip we have to roll here. Clip we have to roll. Connacht played very, very well at the weekend, right? Some really good stuff. Fair play. Johnny Murphy.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Now we're talking.
Look at that. That's
a lot more streamlined, that one.
Yeah, but I mean, that is literally 2 haircuts on one head.
You've got to play well running out on that.
You really have.
Got to play well.
Here in his hand, he was covering it up just in case.
Especially in the pack. I mean, if you're a wing, you can get. Shane Williams had some dodgy haircuts in the past, but he could do what he liked. That you need to be world 15 standard to be running around with it. And at the moment, he isn't. So I'd have a long, hard think about that.
I don't know why the dirty, there was a period there where the little mullet, kind of a little bit of gel in the back, just a little bit longer was the fashion. But now it's just how gross of a haircut can you have? How long and greasy can the mullet be? I
think what you've got to remember is both of those make Jack Goodhue's former mullet look okay.
No, Jack Goodhue's in the respectable,
That's what I'm saying, right? It's like, remember when we used to hate George W. Bush and think he was mental, and then we were given Donald Trump? That is that equivalent to that with the mullet.
You've got no background now.
And that's the US done now as well.
So that's US, Russia, New Zealand.
No,
there you go.
We're living in Peru now in a month.
As we get at least 20 minutes to really narrow in Paul Williams' world. But before we leave that Connacht Ulster game, there was another bit of play that I do want to queue up because Adam has been busy. Bundy Aki taking a few people for the ride. Now,
look at that.
I want to actually examine what happens here because it's very uncomplicated. Bundy Aki is very, very strong. But how do you stop that?
I don't know. It's not even much of a run-up. It's like a 2-yard run-up. It's not like he takes it on a big Jamie Roberts, 10-yarder. He's, what's that? 2, 3, 4 steps.
You got to say, Madigan's taking this one on the chin this week, hasn't he? But your scrum half isn't helping much, is he? What's a scrum half? He doesn't do a lot, does he? That replacement scrum half to add a bit of weight. You know what I'm saying? It's for anyone who go and stand in front of Bundy Aki when he's got a 10-yard run up, right?
That's what I was going to ask now.
And try and stop him.
What's he like to tackle, Dean? Is he just?
I haven't had the pleasure, thankfully. But yes, I was listening before the game. He's got a solid 6 kgs more of muscle or something like that.
Yeah, he looked really trim.
That's a lot of muscle.
I mean, you do have to. Look,
you don't go that hard.
Most 10s, right? Unless you're Dan Bigger or Johnny Wilkinson, right? You you have to go speed bump. You have to go low. You've got to get round the bootlaces and just chop him. It's the old adage. He can't go anywhere without his feet. And then 9 can come in, maybe 12 can join in because 7 can't get there. And hold him up a little bit and add a bit of weight. You know, if he's already got into contact high and leg drive, you're gone, Dean, aren't you?
Yeah. No, that's the classic. You practice all week, you're double tackling, and that takes the impact out of it a little bit. You get a bit more of an angle, so you're not quite copping the whole brunt of it. So yeah, if he just goes low and you've got the 12 jamming and high, you're putting him down a lot better. So yeah, poor guy, just left 1-on-1 to try and stop a monster. It's impossible.
Didn't I say Daniel?
No, you didn't.
Dan, then.
This is a good one. So something's changed in the Holley Bigger relationship over the last week.
That's bad.
Yeah, that's not good.
Sorry, Daniel.
Sorry, Daniel.
I want to get, before we move on to the one game we haven't really discussed for the weekend, Ian Gilbert. These guys could be bald at 40. Okay, so you know what? Steph Evans, Johnny Murphy, and whoever else wants to use COVID as an excuse for a rockin' mullet, go for it. And going back to Friday night's game, Ian Keatley, if you want to be D'Artagnan or Dogtagnan, you do that.
Which reminds me, we obviously now rivaling our fellow Guinness PRO14 podders, James Hook and John Barkley and Darren Cave. Darren Cave's moustache?
Yeah, it's bad.
Cavey. Really?
Yeah, that's got to go. I think we should turn on them now. I know we're part of the same league, but we've got to treat those as enemies.
Oh, Hooky's got too much on me, mate. I'm not getting on it.
That's true.
Yeah,
too much on me.
He's neutralised you. Okay, let's go. Leinster, Munster. We touched on this earlier on. Orgy Sneeman. He wasn't the only person who got injured early, because in almost the same movement, David Kilcoyne was knocked out. 2 major carriers out for Munster, but it still ended up being a cracking game of rugby.
Great game.
It was. I tell you what. I was here in this room. I was putting up a blind. I had the drill out. I had a beer on the table and I was watching rugby, and I was so simply happy.
It doesn't get more manly than that, does it?
It could get a lot more manly, in fairness. This was very light DIYD.
Boff. I was just impressed. I wrote today about, it was just instant quality for that first game. Their set piece, Munster set piece, ran at 100%, both of them. Scrum and line out. Leinster's scrum was at 100%, I think, and even their line out ran at like 88%. And when you think they couldn't practice any of that for nearly, how long, 12 weeks, maybe 16 weeks, I think to come back into a competitive environment and have that nearly perfect, I thought it was fantastic.
I'm an idiot. I watched loads of lineouts, and I was just thought they've had so long to work on these lineouts. Like Ulster just missing such crucial lineouts, and Osprey's one at the end, which cost them the draw. Like I was just like, what? How is this?
Scarlett's Mr. Lord.
Scarlett said, yeah.
But then obviously there was the majority of the whole lockdown phase was no contact, so you couldn't do it.
But they were very impressive.
It was a great game, and we're doing a new Guinness PRO14 analysis show coming up, and I spent a lot of time looking at this Leinster-Munster game because Munster played them in the last 2 semi-finals and not really got close because of their execution in Leinster's 22. And it showed some improvement in this game. They scored 3 tries. I think Chris Farrell, your favourite mate, was excellent. But I think the influence of Deolande alongside him was a real good. It was like a calming, assuring. He wasn't this sort of, mad crash ball centre. He played an all centre type game. He was distributing. He was running good block lines. They defended well together. So add Snyman to that, unfortunately, but Stander stood up and carried hard on the corner. Omani put a big shift in. They nearly got there, but for Hanrahan's conversion, it would have been a draw, So I think I said last week that I fancied Munster, didn't I?
Yes,
because this was their shot, and I saw Omani's interview after he was gutted, because I think he was thinking the same. This is our chance to get psychologically up with them. But I still think it was enough to put a bit of a psychological moment in them for the semi-final. I really do.
Yeah,
I'm
you
always
take a lot
amazed.
away from that.
Yeah, I'm always amazed how good CJ Stander is jackling over the ball when you consider how much he carries. Because you don't tend to get like big carriers, do you, who are also like nimble enough to be at the jackal all the time. He always catches me off guard. He seems to get at least 3 jackal penalties every week. And he just doesn't look like that build, does he? Mind you, Nick Williams is the same. He's good over the ball, isn't he?
There's a guy who our Irish fans will know, and Dean, watch out for him. Ryan Baird. He's a young, I think he's 23-year-old second row. We feature him in Analyst Eye. Goes out tomorrow night, and my God, I likened him to a young John Eales. That's what I thought. He was all over the place. He was fantastic. He was part of a Leinster clinical performance. To be fair.
Yeah, when you you mentioned
21. It's disgusting.
21. Sorry. 21.
You mentioned him last show. I think, and I had absolutely no idea who you're talking about. And then watching that game, I was like, oh, that lock's pretty good. And then I heard Bard or Beard or however you say it a few times, and he was everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Incredible.
Yeah, but and this, so when it queue up, so we talked about James Lowe earlier on in the context of a potential Lions selection, and he's definitely in the mix. But Bard's part in that try for Leinster was slick. I mean, there's not many players locks who can do that. And when you see that kind of talent,
look where he comes from. He's in the scrum, right? Look, he's got the headband on. He's come from he overtakes 2 or 3 other Leinster players to get there.
Yeah.
Now he squares up, pumps the ball, passes it at the right time. So he was packing down in that scrum.
That's incredible, isn't it?
And the second phase, he's around there doing what an outside centre would do, putting low in. Brilliant. Watch out for him.
I love that pass from Sexton as well. Such a beautiful little pass in it through the gap.
Yeah.
And that was the time where I think, a lot of Leinster fans would have gone, game's pretty much done there. But it wasn't, as we said. So Big Will, Leinster versus Munster was a quality game. That's come from a know-it-all Southern Hemispherian.
Big Will Big Will's putting some good posts. Thanks for joining us, Big Will.
Yeah. I think he's up in the contenders, Big Will.
Yeah, so we need Paul. We need you to go back and have a look at some of those, because this is definitely a good one. Candidate, horrible mullet. I've seen sheep that have been shaved better.
He's from New Zealand.
It's just keeping quiet there. He's
we could just
stay
quiet for the moment while we just contemplate sheep.
Well, we're in Wales, Paul, so we're used to that.
Yeah,
you are. But it was a quality game of rugby. Came down to the end. Both teams will take a lot from it. But we now, looking forward, Sean, we were talking about this before the show. We have to we play this fairly straight. There's not a lot to play for this weekend now.
No. Unfortunately, there's not. But it was always going to be the case with this sort of revamped Guinness PRO14 for this year to get it done. And PRO14 has done a great job. And let's face it, Edinburgh, Leinster were clear anyway, so that's probably fair. The table doesn't lie, and the other teams haven't done enough. The Scarlets still could do it. They're relying on Connacht, who might save some players for the new season, beating Munster. On Munster's performance there, I think they got too much. So we're looking at Edinburgh, Ulster, and Leinster, Munster. Which is a mouth-watering prospect. Ulster will get better. Clearly rusty. Weren't clinical in the 22. Connacht played well, deserved it. Munster, Leinster. Oh, hello.
Yeah, that's big.
I'm not calling it until after this weekend.
Yeah, no, it's going to be good. There were a number of scenarios last week there were long odds. It was long odds stuff. And that's why we're in this position. But I'm still okay because there's rugby on this weekend, and that's all I've wanted for a long time to watch.
Exactly. I was going to say they've got a lot to play for, keeping me happy.
Yeah,
and that's a big career goal for those pros.
That's exactly it. But so when we look ahead. So Sean, you've got your analyst eye. Who's on that show with you?
So Murray Kinsella,
Deadly.
who I'm sure all our Irish fans know, loves a bit of analysis, a bit like me. So we bounce off one another. We're co-host. I don't want to give away too much, but essentially it's a deep dive into the analysis. We've got some bespoke statistics and that we've created with the Guinness PRO14 statisticians, myself and Murray, slightly different things that viewers of rugby on TV aren't quite used to. Dean would be used to them as a professional player, but I've alluded to a couple of them. So things like entry and efficiency into the 22 and then scoring percentages. When you look at them, those stats and you see them on the clips, you'll go, right, that's why. And Leinster, the top of the tree by miles. Edinburgh, right. Defensively, you go, their stats, and then you back them up with the clips. So it's really exciting. We've got a special guest on who's a breakdown specialist, one of the Guinness PRO14 Irish provincial coaches. I don't want to spoil that. It's a surprise for tomorrow night, but that's a great chat as well. And every week, for the next 4 weeks, we're going to be doing Analyst Eye, and we'll be getting the guest coach on to talk about a particular area of the game. So it's a new thing. Delighted to do it. Really enjoyed recording it. So tune in, please.
That's fantastic.
Murray, surprisingly tall, Kinsella.
He is tall, isn't he?
He's
a lot taller than me.
Never gets trousers unless they're that much sock showing.
Yeah, trendy.
He's a long dog.
He's about 6'6", isn't he, Murray?
He's a big dude. There's a really educated comment in from someone called Adam Redmond.
Hello.
Yeah, this isn't loaded, so are we going to read that out? Why is Exeter's second team great, good for the Premiership, but Leinster's second team is bad for the PRO14?
It's a very good point.
But I think it is served with a saucer of milk from super producer Adam Redmond, if it is the same man, right?
It's I think it's a very good point, though. Obviously, everyone's sort of having a little pop at the PRO14 because Leinster can play two teams. Yeah, of course, when you do it in the Gallagher, it's look at the strength and depth we've got. So it's I think that's a fair comment, even though it does look a bit propaganda-y.
If you were listening to if you're listening to the show, you will have not seen that for me being smart, I was exited from the screen for at least 10 seconds by the producer.
Digital punishment
for being smart. I know my place, boss. I know my place. Let's go around some of the fixtures for the weekend. Okay, so we do have a full slate of games. Edinburgh, Glasgow. I want a quick call. What's your gut on this, Dean Budd? Who's winning that game?
Edinburgh. They'll keep going. No doubt about that.
Paul?
Yeah, I think the same. They'll just keep pushing now all the way through, treat it as a full season.
Yeah, same for me. Same for me.
Okay, done. Next, Dragons, Scarlets. Sean?
I'm covering this game. I think both teams have got European ambitions, so it'd be interesting to see the sides. Dragons missed opportunities, 32 errors, most of them in the attacking zone. I'm going Scarlets.
Okay, Williams?
I've got a new theory here as well, actually. I might just pick the same as Sean so I can get the same points every week. Yeah, no, I think Scarlets. I've heard that the Dragons are going to be resting a lot of players again this week, so definitely Scarlets.
Okay.
That's thrown a bit of spanner in the works there for me. I was going to go Dragons all the way then just to mix it up, but I really liked how the Dragons played. I mean, too many errors, and if they held on to those balls, the game would have been completely different. So I'll go Dragons just because if half of those stick to hand, and they were creating some good opportunities.
Guys, so Ulster play Leinster on Saturday evening. Mr. Williams, can Ulster do something here?
No, always Leinster, even if it's their fifths.
Dean?
Yeah, Leinster, Ulster didn't show anywhere near enough to kind of look like they're going to challenge them now.
Sean, are you going to be controversial?
Yeah, I'm going Ulster. They need to readdress last week. They need to put it to bed. I'm going to go Ulster.
Oof.
Okay. Into Sunday. Munster Connacht. This is the one where we do have a bit on it. Munster are fairly handy favourites here. Sean, straight back to you.
Munster.
Paul,
Yeah, Munster easily.
Dean,
Yeah, I'll keep that going for the trifecta.
Cardiff Blues against Ospreys. Williams.
Now, I think Blues could win that. That's the one I'm going to go with. I think Blues could win that at home on their surface, and they were reasonably poor in Llanelli. So, yeah, I think they'll win that.
Okay, Dean.
I'll go Ospreys. I think they had a different vibe about them. It didn't see much out of Cardiff, so I think I'll go Ospreys.
And Sean, completely unbiased when it comes to Ospreys. Holly.
I thought the Blues lacked a bit of firepower, so I think they'll be better, and I think they'll score tries. If the big boys play, Ospreys. If Tipperick plays, then and Reece Webb in particular, I'll go Ospreys.
Okay, that's some good hedging of bets. Well done. That's very professional of you.
Yeah.
Last game of the weekend and of what we'll call the regular and very strange season. Zebre against Benetton. Who are we going for? Sean first. We're leaving Buddy till last.
I think Zebra shot their bolt
Last week.
I'm going Benetton.
Yeah, I'm going to go Benetton as well because Dean said last week they'll probably rotate and pick a stronger squad this week. So I'm going to use that inside info.
I'll also use that inside info and go with Benetton.
In rugby quality, I make up for an absorbing everything I'm told. So,
Benetton, I think, would have got an absolute rocket at them and would have worked on just stopping them all, and that was kind of all Zebre really had and the difference in the game. So I think Benetton.
Okay, here we go. So we're almost to the end of the show. We've had a load of comments through. Paul, I think we're going to task you with picking the very best comment, but there's a few that I'm going to pick up, right? Harley Worthy, early on in the show, the zebra driving wall was beautiful. Yes, it was. We commented on it, and there was a couple of things where we had to go in depth in that game because there was a lot of stuff we didn't. Big Will, why are the subtitles? This was about the Johnny Barkley clip. I'm from Australia, and I can understand the bloke. He's a very well-spoken Scot.
It's got to be Big Will,
and he's Australian.
And he's Australian.
He knows his sheep. Are we just giving it to Big Will?
Definitely. I was going to pick some of the contingent who stuck up for me earlier.
I think Kerry
Holley was
Hansford
having a
close.
pop.
Kerry Hansford was really close. Personally.
Yeah.
How do producer Adam come for that one?
This was Big Will
a lot
talking
of praise
about
early on there, Sean. It must have been one of those.
That was a good one, Adam Redmond. Who's he?
No, who's he? What's that little picture he's got? Oh, it's Mo Sislak.
It is an unbiased and absolutely neutral comment there from someone coincidentally called Adam Redmond. Harley Worthy, he's really going for a late one here. Premier Sports is the best value for money of any rugby subscription I've had.
Well, I got to be honest,
nice
mate, it
try.
is.
It really is.
Well, it is because it's £80 at the moment, and if you get a kickback on that as well.
Get out.
I think it's a £10 kickback.
I'm not. Stop it.
Come on, man.
We're going full Wayne's World here.
You get all the games. Actually, the best value at the moment is Guinness PRO14 online because you're getting loads of stuff.
Exactly. For nothing.
I feel dirty. Need Squidge to come on to rival Hook. That's what we want. Some proper inter-podcast rivalry.
Oh, Hook, you rinse
I was there when that got awkward. So if we get Squidge to pre-record something after Hooky has a go, that would be properly perfect. But we're not going there. So we have our winner, I think, Paul?
Yeah, Big Will.
Well done, Big Will.
It's going to cost the deliveries.
It costs 900 quid to send it out there.
Yeah.
You get it in 12 weeks, Big Will.
Exactly. So Big Will gets some Bear Hug gear, I think. So get in touch with the Under the Sticks Twitter account. Drop them a DM. Slide into the Under Sticks DMs. They are open. I think that's where we leave it there. So we've gone through our first week of real rugby. We're back of actual evening rugby. We've got another weekend to come. We all watch the news and we wait to see what's going to come, because sometimes things don't go the way we think, but that's okay right now, because we all kind of have each other watching the games again, and then we can talk about them together again, and that's why we're here. So that is a wrap. Thank you, Dean Budd. Thank you, Sean Holley. Thank you, Paul Williams. Thank you, super producer Adam Redmond and super commenter Adam Redmond. Thank you, everybody, for jumping into the show. It really makes a difference, and we love having you along for the ride. Hopefully, we'll have another watch along before the end of the season. That was Under the Sticks, presented by Guinness PRO14 and Big Red Cloud. My name's Andy McGeady. We'll talk to you soon.
They call me cheetah, cheetah, cheetah. Ooh, cheetah, 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 cheetah. I love my cheetah, cheetah, cheetah.